Have you ever wondered why you carry certain traits, ones that make you strong but weigh you down? Fellow Stoics, today we uncover the 5 traits of those who have suffered too much, and how to rise above them. Pain changes people, it shapes us, protects us, and sometimes it traps us. These traits reflect your resilience but can also hold you back. Using the wisdom of Stoicism, we'll uncover how to understand and transform these traits into sources of strength. If you're ready to turn your struggles into power, subscribe now and activate all notifications for more Stoic insights and practical philosophy. The first sign is heightened empathy. When you've suffered deeply, something within you changes. Your ability to sense the pain of others becomes sharper. You no longer need them to explain their struggles because you can see it in their eyes, hear it in their tone, and feel it in the silence between their words. You understand their sadness because you've walked through it yourself. While this heightened empathy makes you compassionate and understanding, it often comes at a cost. You start carrying not only your own pain but also the pain of those around you. Their burdens weigh on you, even when you're not directly involved, and your emotional energy drains as if you're living through their struggles alongside them. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, if it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. This wisdom isn't just about honesty. It's about clarity and boundaries, even in empathy. Stoicism teaches us to approach life with discernment, recognizing that while we can care for others, we cannot take responsibility for their pain. There is a difference between helping someone and drowning alongside them. Compassion is a virtue, but like all virtues, it must be practiced with balance and intention. Imagine a friend comes to you, overwhelmed by their circumstances. You listen deeply, absorbing every word, and by the time the conversation ends, you feel as though you've taken on their pain as your own. That heaviness lingers, affecting your own well-being and leaving you less equipped to manage your own challenges. This is the double-edged sword of heightened empathy. It enables you to connect with others profoundly, but it can also blur the lines between their struggles and your own. Marcus Aurelius would urge you to ask yourself, what is within my power here? Can I guide or support them without sacrificing my own peace? The answer lies in boundaries, a concept the Stoics emphasized repeatedly. One of the challenges of heightened empathy is the guilt that comes with setting boundaries. You might feel that stepping back or preserving your energy makes you selfish. But the Stoic perspective offers a crucial insight. To serve others well, you must first protect your own inner stability. Imagine a tree rooted by a river. It offers shade, shelter, and oxygen. But if the river runs dry, the tree will wither and die. In the same way, your capacity to give comes from your own reserves. Without tending to your own needs, your ability to care for others will inevitably erode. Seneca writes, "You must live for yourself before you can live for another." This isn't a call to selfishness, but a reminder to value your own well-being as much as you value the well-being of others. When you allow yourself to recharge and find peace, you can engage with others' pain from a place of strength, not depletion. It's not about turning away from those in need, it's about approaching them with a balanced perspective. Heightened empathy can also lead to a subtle but significant emotional exhaustion, one that builds over time. You might find yourself hesitating before answering a friend's call, not because you don't care, but because you know how much energy it will take. Or perhaps you notice yourself feeling irritable or distant after helping someone, unsure why your good intentions leave you feeling so drained. These are signs that your empathy, while powerful, needs to be balanced with self-preservation. Epictetus teaches, do not try to seem wise to others. In other words, let go of the need to always be the one who listens, fixes, or absorbs others' pain. Your worth isn't tied to how much you endure for others. It's tied to how well you navigate your own life. Empathy, when practiced with wisdom, becomes one of the greatest strengths you can possess. It allows you to connect deeply, offer comfort, and create meaningful relationships. But to truly harness this strength, you must also recognize its limits. You are not the solution to every problem, nor are you responsible for healing every wound. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. This truth applies to empathy as well. You cannot control the pain of others, but you can control how you respond to it. If you've ever felt the weight of others' struggles, know that you're not alone. Your empathy is a testament to your humanity, but it doesn't have to come at the cost of your peace. Learn to set boundaries with compassion, offering your presence without losing yourself in the process. When you act with intention, your empathy becomes a tool for connection, not a source of exhaustion. If this resonates with you, comment compassion below. Stoics understand the delicate balance between caring for others and preserving their own inner tranquility. Next, we'll explore a second trait that often emerges from deep suffering: a fierce sense of independence. While this may feel empowering, it can also become an isolating force. Stay with me, Stoics, as we continue to uncover the traits shaped by pain and the wisdom to transform them. The second sign is hyperindependence. When suffering leaves its mark on you, it often teaches one of life's harshest lessons. You can't always rely on others. Perhaps there was a time when you reached out for support, only to find that the people you depended on weren't there. That betrayal or abandonment cuts deep, and to protect yourself from future disappointment, you start relying on no one but yourself. Hyperindependence feels like strength at first. You don't need anyone, you don't ask for help, and you handle everything on your own. It's empowering until it starts to isolate you. Without realizing it, you build walls instead of bridges, keeping others out not because you don't care, but because trusting them feels too dangerous. Epictetus teaches us, we are not disturbed by things, but by the view we take of them. This is the Stoic key to understanding hyperindependence. The need to do everything alone isn't just a response to what happened to you. It's shaped by your perception of those events. If you've concluded that people are inherently unreliable, that depending on others leads only to pain, hyperindependence becomes your shield. But this shield also keeps out connection, support, and love. What once felt like freedom starts to feel like a cage. Consider someone who insists on handling everything themselves, from the smallest tasks to life's biggest challenges. At first, their independence might seem admirable. They don't burden others, they're capable, and they solve problems on their own. But look closer and you'll see the toll it takes. They're exhausted, carrying more than their share of the load. They're isolated, unable to lean on others even when they're overwhelmed. And deep down, they're lonely, longing for connection but too guarded to let anyone in. Hyperindependence may feel like a refusal to be injured by others, but in cutting yourself off, you harm not only your own well-being but the natural flow of connection that strengthens communities. True strength, as the Stoics saw it, doesn't come from isolation but from resilience, being strong enough to endure vulnerability and wise enough to discern who to trust. The roots of hyperindependence often trace back to betrayal. Perhaps someone broke a promise, failed to show up when you needed them, or took advantage of your trust. These experiences teach you to keep your guard up, to believe that the only person you can truly count on is yourself. And while it's wise to be cautious, the Stoics would caution against letting past wounds define your future. Epictetus teaches, it is impossible for a person to begin to learn what they think they already know. Hyperindependence can trap you in the belief that relying on others will always lead to pain, preventing you from learning the lesson that not everyone will fail you. Breaking free from hyperindependence doesn't mean abandoning your strength or losing your sense of self-reliance. Instead, it means finding balance. Imagine a bridge. It connects two sides, providing support while allowing for movement and connection. Hyperindependence is like refusing to cross that bridge, insisting on staying on your side because the risk of stepping onto the bridge feels too great. But the bridge exists for a reason: to connect, to share burdens, to build relationships that enrich life rather than isolate it. One of the greatest challenges of hyperindependence is recognizing when it's no longer serving you. You might find yourself turning down offers of help, even when you're overwhelmed, because accepting help feels like admitting weakness. You might avoid asking for support because the thought of being vulnerable terrifies you. But the Stoics remind us that vulnerability is not a weakness, it's an opportunity for growth. Marcus Aurelius advises, loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. By allowing others to support you, you're not losing independence. You're gaining the strength that comes from connection. Imagine someone offering you help, a friend who wants to lighten your load, or a colleague who's willing to share the workload. Hyper-independence might cause you to dismiss their offer, saying, "I've got it," even if you're silently struggling. But what if, instead, you accepted their help? What if you allowed yourself to trust, even just a little? This small act of openness could be the first step toward breaking down the walls of hyper-independence, creating space for balance, connection, and mutual growth. Seneca reminds us, associate with those who will make a better man of you. True freedom comes from surrounding yourself with people who uplift you, people you can trust to walk alongside you rather than weigh you down. Hyper-independence convinces you that you're better off alone, but the Stoics remind us that we are social beings, designed to thrive through connection. Letting the right people in isn't a weakness, it's a strength, one that requires courage and discernment. If you've ever felt like you can only trust yourself, know that you're not alone. Hyper-independence is a natural response to pain, but it doesn't have to be permanent. The Stoics teach us that true strength comes from balance, not isolation. By learning to trust the right people and embracing the interconnectedness of life, you can transform hyper-independence into a balanced and fulfilling approach to relationships. If this resonates with you, comment strength below. Together, let's redefine what it means to be strong, guided by the wisdom of the Stoics. We've uncovered two traits of those who've suffered too much: heightened empathy and hyper-independence. These traits protect you, but they also weigh you down. The next three are just as powerful and challenging, so stay with me, Stoics. If this video is resonating with you, show your support by hitting the thanks button below. Let's spread Stoic wisdom to help more people transform their struggles into strength. The third sign is perfectionism. When you've suffered deeply, it often leaves you with the feeling that you're not enough. To compensate, you set impossibly high standards for yourself, believing that flawlessness is the only way to feel worthy or safe. At first, this relentless pursuit of perfection feels empowering. You take control of your life, pouring every ounce of effort into your work, your relationships, and your goals. But over time, perfectionism reveals itself as a trap. No matter how much you achieve, it never feels like enough. The goalposts keep moving, and instead of satisfaction, you're left with exhaustion. Seneca warns us, no one can lead a happy life if they think only of lengthening it, rather than living it. Perfectionism isn't about living, it's about surviving. And survival, while necessary, is not the same as fulfillment. Perfectionism stems from the idea that control equals safety. If you can make everything perfect, if your work is flawless, your behavior irreproachable, your life free from mistakes, then perhaps you can protect yourself from pain, criticism, or rejection. It feels like building a fortress to guard against the chaos of the world. But the Stoics teach us that control is an illusion, especially when it's rooted in fear. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. True strength doesn't come from trying to control every detail of life. It comes from mastering your inner world, accepting imperfection, and learning to adapt to life's uncertainties. The trap of perfectionism lies in its endless nature. No matter how much you achieve, there's always another level to strive for, another flaw to fix, another standard to meet. Imagine completing a project or accomplishing a goal, only to immediately focus on what could have been better. The moment that should be one of pride and celebration becomes another reminder of where you fell short. This constant self-criticism creates a cycle of dissatisfaction, making it impossible to feel truly fulfilled. Stoicism reminds us to break free from this cycle by shifting our focus from outcomes to actions. As Epictetus advises, do your duty without expecting applause. Strive for excellence, not for external validation, but because the act of doing your best is inherently virtuous. Perfectionism also robs you of the present moment. When you're constantly focused on what you need to fix or improve, you lose sight of what's already good and meaningful in your life. You might find yourself working late into the night, obsessing over details no one else will notice, while missing out on time with loved ones or opportunities for rest and joy. Seneca's words ring true here. Begin at once to live, and count each separate day as a separate life. Each day is a chance to live fully, but perfectionism pulls you away from the now, placing your happiness perpetually out of reach. The emotional toll of perfectionism is heavy. It often manifests as a harsh inner critic, constantly pointing out your flaws and magnifying your mistakes. You might replay a conversation in your mind, fixating on what you said wrong or how you could have handled it better. Or you might hesitate to start something new, fearing that you won't meet the high standards you've set for yourself. This fear of failure becomes paralyzing, leading to procrastination or avoidance. Ironically, the very behaviors perfectionism seeks to prevent. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, waste no more time arguing about what a good person should be. Be one. Instead of debating whether you're good enough, focus on living in alignment with your values and taking meaningful action. One of the greatest challenges of perfectionism is its ability to disguise itself as virtue. Striving for excellence is admirable, and it's easy to conflate this with the unhealthy drive for perfection. But the difference lies in the mindset. Excellence is about growth, effort, and learning. Perfectionism is about fear, control, and avoidance. The Stoics teach us to embrace progress over perfection, recognizing that mistakes and imperfections are part of the human experience. Epictetus advises, if you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid. Growth often requires us to step outside our comfort zones, to try and fail, to let go of the need to appear perfect and focus instead on becoming better. Imagine someone who spends hours preparing for a presentation, revising every slide and rehearsing every line until it feels flawless. While this level of effort might impress others, it often comes at a personal cost: exhaustion, anxiety, and a lingering sense of inadequacy. Even if the presentation is a success, they might leave feeling they could have done more. Now imagine the same person embracing the Stoic approach. They prepare diligently but accept that imperfections will occur. Instead of fearing mistakes, they focus on delivering value and staying present. This shift in mindset transforms the experience, replacing fear with purpose and allowing for genuine growth. Perfectionism isn't just about what you do. It's about how you see yourself. It's driven by the belief that your worth is tied to your achievements, that you need to earn love, respect, or belonging through flawless performance. But the Stoics remind us that our worth comes not from external accomplishments, but from living in accordance with our principles. Seneca teaches, the wise man is content with his own approval. When you align your actions with your values, you free yourself from the need for perfection and find contentment in the effort itself. If you've ever felt like nothing you do is enough, know that you're not alone. Perfectionism is a common response to pain, but it's also a barrier to peace. The Stoics encourage us to let go of the illusion of control and embrace the imperfections that make us human. Progress, not perfection, is the path to growth and fulfillment. If this resonates with you, comment progress below. Remember, Stoics know that striving for excellence is noble, but perfection is an illusion. The fourth sign is emotional guarding. When you've been deeply hurt, vulnerability begins to feel dangerous. You've learned, perhaps the hard way, that letting people see your emotions can leave you exposed to further pain. So, you build a fortress around your feelings, a strong facade designed to keep others from getting too close. It's a survival mechanism, and it works. If no one can reach you, no one can hurt you. But this armor, as impenetrable as it seems, comes at a cost. While it keeps out pain, it also blocks love, support, and connection. The same walls that protect you isolate you, leaving you disconnected from the very relationships that could bring healing and joy. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight. Emotional guarding is resistance to change. It's an attempt to freeze life in a safe, predictable state where you can't be hurt again. But life, as the Stoics teach, is constantly in motion. To resist it is to resist the very essence of existence. Healing begins when you acknowledge this truth, when you allow yourself to feel, to connect, and to trust again. Vulnerability isn't a weakness. It's an act of courage, one that invites growth and renewal. Think about a time when someone asked how you were really feeling, and instead of answering honestly, you deflected or dismissed the question. Maybe you said, "I'm fine," when you weren't. Or maybe you changed the subject, redirecting attention away from yourself. On the surface, this might seem like strength. After all, you didn't burden anyone with your problems. But deep down, it likely left you feeling unseen, unheard, and alone. Emotional guarding creates a paradox. The more you protect yourself, the more isolated you become. The Stoics understood the importance of balance when it comes to emotions. They didn't advocate suppressing feelings but mastering them. Seneca wrote, "No man can have a peaceful life who thinks too much about lengthening it." In the context of emotional guarding, this reminds us that avoiding pain at all costs doesn't lead to peace. It leads to stagnation. Life's fullness comes from embracing its risks and its rewards, from allowing yourself to feel both joy and sorrow, connection and vulnerability. Emotional guarding often begins as a response to betrayal, rejection, or loss. If someone has hurt you in the past, it's natural to want to protect yourself from experiencing that kind of pain again. But over time, this self-protection can become a habit, one that's hard to break. You start to believe that showing your emotions is a sign of weakness, that asking for help makes you a burden, and that trusting others is a risk you can't afford to take. This mindset might keep you safe, but it also keeps you trapped. Marcus Aurelius advises, "The impediment to action advances action." What stands in the way becomes the way. The walls you've built to guard your emotions may feel like obstacles, but they're also opportunities for growth. One of the most profound challenges of emotional guarding is the way it affects relationships. When you hide your emotions, it's not just about protecting yourself. It's also about controlling how others perceive you. You don't want to seem weak, needy, or vulnerable, so you present a version of yourself that feels invulnerable. But this version isn't real, and over time, it creates distance between you and the people who care about you. They might sense that you're holding back but not understand why, leaving them unsure of how to connect with you. This distance can lead to misunderstandings, frustration, and even the very loneliness you were trying to avoid. Imagine a close friend or loved one reaching out to support you during a difficult time. Instead of letting them in, you brush them off, saying, "I'm handling it." On one level, this might feel like strength. You're proving to yourself that you don't need anyone. But on another level, it's a missed opportunity for connection. The Stoics teach us that vulnerability, when approached with wisdom, is not a weakness but a bridge. Epictetus reminds us, we are not isolated beings. Whatever misfortune befalls one man happens to others too. By allowing others to see your pain, you're not just inviting their support. You're also giving them permission to share their own vulnerabilities, strengthening the bond between you. Breaking free from emotional guarding doesn't mean tearing down your walls all at once. It begins with small acts of courage. Sharing a worry with a trusted friend, admitting when you're struggling, or allowing yourself to cry instead of holding it in. These moments of openness may feel uncomfortable at first, but they are steps toward freedom. Marcus Aurelius advises, "Accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together." This wisdom reminds us that connection is a fundamental part of life, one that requires trust, vulnerability, and the willingness to let others in. There's also a deeper lesson here about self-compassion. Emotional guarding isn't just about hiding your feelings from others. It's often about hiding them from yourself. You might convince yourself that you're fine, even when you're not, because acknowledging your pain feels too overwhelming. But the Stoics teach us that facing our emotions is the first step toward mastering them. Seneca wrote, "He who is brave is free." Freedom comes not from avoiding your feelings, but from confronting them with honesty and courage. If you've ever felt like showing your emotions is a weakness, know that you're not alone. Emotional guarding is a natural response to pain, but it doesn't have to define you. The Stoics remind us that true strength comes from balance, the ability to protect yourself when necessary and to open yourself when it matters most. By embracing vulnerability, you create space for connection, healing, and growth. If this resonates with you, comment courage below. Remember, Stoics know that strength is not the absence of vulnerability, but the ability to embrace it. These 4 traits reveal the scars of suffering, but the 5th trait is the most profound. It shapes how you see the world and yourself. It's not just a behavior, it's a mindset. Let's explore it next. The final sign is the desire for control. When you've suffered deeply, life's unpredictability can feel like a constant threat. You've experienced moments where everything you depended on fell apart, where the chaos of the world seemed to consume your sense of safety. To protect yourself, you begin to cling to control over plans, outcomes, and even the people around you. If you can anticipate every possibility, double-check every detail, and leave no room for error, then perhaps you tell yourself you can shield yourself from future pain. This need for control feels like power, but beneath it lies fear. The fear of uncertainty, of vulnerability, of experiencing the chaos you've already endured. Marcus Aurelius advises, accept the things to which fate binds you, and love the people with whom fate brings you together, but do so with all your heart. This Stoic wisdom challenges the illusion of control, reminding us that life's unpredictability is not an enemy to be conquered, but a reality to be embraced. True control does not come from micromanaging every aspect of life. It comes from mastering your inner world, from learning to navigate uncertainty with grace and strength. The desire for control often shows itself in subtle ways. You might find yourself constantly planning ahead, not just to stay organized, but to avoid any surprises. Perhaps you rehearse conversations in your mind, trying to predict every possible response so you won't be caught off guard. Or maybe you avoid situations where the outcome feels uncertain, sticking to what's familiar and predictable even if it limits your growth. On the surface, these behaviors seem practical, even responsible. But over time, they can become exhausting, trapping you in a cycle of anxiety and rigidity. Imagine planning an important event, a dinner, a trip, or a meeting. You meticulously organize every detail, from the timing to the seating arrangements, believing that perfection will ensure success. But when something inevitably goes wrong, a late arrival, a forgotten item, an unforeseen delay, you feel the tension rising. Instead of adapting, you feel like you've failed, as though your inability to control every aspect of the situation reflects a deeper inadequacy. This is the trap of the desire for control. It ties your sense of peace to outcomes that are often beyond your influence, leaving you perpetually on edge. The Stoics teach us to focus on what is within our power and let go of the rest. Epictetus reminds us, some things are up to us and some are not. This simple truth is the cornerstone of Stoic philosophy, yet it's one of the hardest lessons to practice. When you've suffered, the urge to control everything is a way of reclaiming agency, of proving to yourself that you're not helpless. But true agency lies in understanding the limits of your power. You cannot control the weather, other people's actions, or the twists and turns of fate. What you can control is your response, your mindset, and your ability to find meaning in every situation. One of the greatest challenges of the desire for control is its impact on relationships. When you try to control others, whether it's their choices, behaviors, or emotions, you risk creating tension and resentment. A partner might feel suffocated by your need to manage every detail of their life, or a friend might withdraw because they sense your inability to trust their decisions. This need for control, though rooted in a desire to protect yourself, can inadvertently harm the connections you value most. Marcus Aurelius reminds us, you always own the option of having no opinion. There is never any need to get worked up or to trouble your soul about things you cannot control. In relationships, this wisdom teaches us to release the need to dictate how others live and instead focus on fostering trust and mutual respect. The desire for control also limits your ability to experience joy and spontaneity. Life's greatest moments are often the unplanned ones. A spontaneous conversation, an unexpected opportunity, or a twist of fate that leads to something beautiful. When you cling too tightly to control, you close yourself off to these possibilities, viewing them as risks rather than gifts. Seneca teaches, every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end. To embrace life fully, you must be willing to let go, to trust that even in uncertainty, there is potential for growth and joy. Releasing the need for control doesn't mean becoming passive or indifferent. It means recognizing where your power lies and focusing your energy there. If you're faced with a challenging situation, ask yourself, what can I do about this? And what must I accept? By separating what you can influence from what you cannot, you free yourself from the burden of trying to control the uncontrollable. This practice not only reduces anxiety, but also helps you approach life with greater clarity and purpose. If this resonates with you, comment freedom below. Remember, Stoics know that true strength comes not from controlling life's uncertainties, but from embracing them with grace. As we conclude this exploration of the 5 traits shaped by suffering, let's reflect on the tools Stoicism gives us to transform these challenges into sources of strength. Watch the next video linked in the description below, fellow Stoics, as we continue to uncover the wisdom of ancient philosophy and its power to guide us through modern life. Stoics, these 5 traits are not flaws. They are evidence of your resilience, your ability to endure, but they are also heavy, and carrying them alone isn't the only way forward. By embracing the wisdom of Marcus Aurelius, Seneca, and Epictetus, you can transform these traits into sources of strength and healing. If this video resonated with you, comment freedom below and subscribe for more Stoic insights. Together, let's turn our struggles into wisdom and walk the path of strength and peace. See you next time.